Hello. We all know that 2020 has been a dreadful year for finances. Our own diocese is struggling with a £3 million deficit, and that's why we're having this Generous God, Generous Disciples initiative through Lent, that we might all reflect on our own generosity in the light of God's generosity and how we can become more like Him. But perhaps we ought to look at these things in our own context and see how we've been doing as the Great Baddow churches together. St Mary's ended the year with £27,000 less income than had been hoped for. £9,000 of that didn't come in through envelopes and the plate. £5,000 didn't come in because of loss of use of church buildings, and £6,000 didn't come in because of no wedding fees and funeral fees and so on. There were £3,000 savings on the expenditure budget, which meant that the overall deficit was at £24,000. At Meadgate, there was a whopping £40,000 less income than had been hoped for. £21,000 didn't come in through the cafe not being open, £8,000 through not being able to let the building, and £5,000 that didn't come because there was no offering on Sunday mornings. Fortunately, the operating costs were down by about £36,000, meaning there was a deficit of around £4,500. But they'd already set a deficit budget of £4,000, so there's an overall deficit of around £8,000. At the end of the year, St Paul showed a surplus of £1,101, but they'd managed to do that by not paying £10,899 to the diocese for the parish share. And the problem with doing that is that every time we don't pay over the parish share to the diocese, some part of the Church of England ceases to exist somewhere in the diocese. But if you want a little bit of encouragement and good news, our bishop tells us that if every worshipping member of the diocese gave just £2 a week more, then that would completely wipe out that £3 million deficit in the diocese. And strangely enough, that £2 a week figure works very much for the Great Baddow Team as well. If every member of our churches gave just £2 a week more, that would almost match up with the amount of money that we haven't received in over the last year. So Generous God, Generous Disciples encourages us to think about how we can be truly generous in the way that God is, and help us to reflect on what we want to see our church be able to achieve in the years to come.